Welcome to chapter 4 of the book of Revelation. Chapters 1 to 3 were from the earth. Now, in chapter 4, it changes to heaven, and it goes through that until chapter 9. And in this chapter, we have the episodes number 16 and 17, which can be found in our book, Entities of the Book of Revelation, found on our bookstore. And it begins, after these things, the seven churches, I saw, and behold, a door being open in the Urano, in the heaven. So now he's seeing in the heaven and hearing from the heaven, and a door being open in the heaven. There's not a pearly gate, but it's a door. And the first voice which I heard was a trumpet speaking with me, saying, well, a trumpet, it doesn't speak, so this is a figure, and a voice, a trumpet, I heard, or the first voice or sound, could be a sound which I heard, was as a trumpet speaking with me. So it was something to get his attention. That's what trumpets were used for, basically, saying, ascend here, and I will show to you what must take place after these things, or after these. So now the time goes into the future, and we are going to go in and see the things that are going to take place after these things. And I assume he's talking about the time of the seven churches, and it mentions at the beginning of the things that were and shall be. And immediately I existed in spirit. So now what exactly that means, I don't know. I have never existed in spirit. I've had experienced spiritual things, but I have never went out of my body and existed in another form. But apparently John the prophet did. And behold, a throne was situated in the heaven, and upon the throne one sitting. On page 139 of our book, it has the thrones. You can see all the different thrones, the 24 thrones, the subject and the great white throne. Then the throne in heaven, which I believe is the one Jesus is sitting on, the throne of God the Father, the throne of Satan, and the thrones, plural, of the 1,000 years. In Ezekiel 1:26, it says, and behold, a sound far above the firmament of the one being above their head was as a vision of a sapphire with the likeness of a throne upon it. And upon the likeness of the throne was a likeness as a form of a man from above. And that's in the Old Testament. So he's as a sapphire, and here likened in sight to a jasper stone and a sardius. Now these stones are on the breastplate of the priest in the Old Testament. You can read about that when you go into our book, the entities. I said English derivatives before I meant entities of the book of Revelation. If I did, the entities book, and you will see subjects underneath each one of these with the listings and information. And a rainbow was about the throne, likened to the sight of emerald. And emeralds are green, some type of a rainbow, but a rainbow generally is multicolored, so I'm not exactly sure why he used the emerald. But here we have an iris, number 2463. Iris, we have the iris plant, which comes from that, is a rainbow. But there's also another bow, which is the toxon, is the bow that God put into heaven. And a toxon is like a bow and arrow type of a bow. And I don't believe, I think iris was just used once in the Old Testament. It wasn't for a rainbow. It was something else. I forgot what it was. I'm sorry, I should have written it down. But on the oracle, so these jasper, sardius, emeralds are all mentioned. Then in 4, and round about the throne were 24 thrones, and you can read all about these 24 thrones. And upon the thrones, thronos, we have a transliteration, I saw the 24 presbyteros, elders sitting down, being covered in white garments, and upon their heads golden crowns. Now, if these 24 elders here are some people, the 12 disciples or 12 apostles and the 12 tribes, could possibly be, because it ends up talking about that later in the chapter. So anyway, there are these 24 elders, and they're all on thrones. And from out of the throne went forth lightnings and voices and thunders, and this as was on Mount Sinai when the people saw the things that were going on. And before his throne, which are the seven spirits of God. And we see also in 5:6 it says, and John says, and I saw and behold in the midst of the throne and of the four living creatures, and in the midst of the elders a lamb standing as being slain, having 7 horns and 7 eyes, which are the 7 spirits of God, being sent into all the earth. So these 7 spirits of God. Now, if they're separate or they're part of the divinity is a question I have. I can't say I have a direct answer for that. Then it continues in 6, and before the throne was a thalassa, sea. Thalactic, and all these rose-colored words are all in the book, entities of the book of Revelation. A sea of glass likened to ice. And in 15:2 it says, and I saw as a sea of glass with fire being mixed, and the ones overcoming from the wild beast and from his image, and from the number of his name, standing upon the glass sea, having harps of God. That's in 15:2. And in the midst of the throne, and round about the throne, 4 living creatures, full of eyes in front and behind. The 4 living creatures are all mentioned from page 115 on, and it refers to also the living creatures which are in the Old Testament. In the book of Ezekiel, it says, this is a living creature which I saw underneath the God of Israel by the river Chebar, and I knew that they are cherubim. So here Ezekiel is telling us that they're cherubim, the 4 living creatures. And the first living creature was likened to a lion, and you can open the book, English entities, and you'll see all the things and how it relates, each one of the living creatures, and to the living creatures in the Old Testament. And the second living creature was likened to a calf, and the third living creature having the face of a man, and the fourth living creature was likened to a flying eagle. And the 4 living creatures, one by one of them, having each 6 wings round about, and from inside being full of eyes. And this is all described in Ezekiel. And they have not rest day and night, saying, Holy, 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 Lord God, Pantocrator, Almighty. Pan is all, and Krat, might, Almighty. So these cherubim are speaking, and they are praising God, as we will when we are in front of Him. And the one, the Holy, Holy, the Lord God Almighty, the one who was, the one being, and the one coming. So to me, it sounds like they are talking about Jesus, because of the one being and the one coming. The Father really wasn't being on the earth anyway, and He's not coming because He's been here all along, and He'll be here forever and ever. But Jesus will be coming. And whenever the living creatures shall give doxen, glory, and honor, and thankfulness to the one sitting upon the throne, living into the eons of the eons. So Jesus will be living into the eons of the eons. And the 24 elders shall fall before the one sitting upon the throne, and shall do obeisance to the one living into the eons of the eons. Now that means doing obeisance, it means laying flat on your face. Unfortunately, the King James translated that into worship, which today means like playing a guitar and all these things, which it has nothing to do with it. and shall cast their crowns before the throne, saying, Worthy are you, the Lord and our God, the Holy One. The Holy One, the Lord our God, the Holy One. And now, I believe it's talking about here in Jesus, and it mentions on the thrones. I'm not sure if the throne in heaven that was Jesus here. I believe at the throne in heaven. It says in Ezekiel 1:26, and behold, a sound far above the firmament of the one being above their head was as a vision of stone of sapphire with a likeness of a throne upon it. And upon, I read that already, and upon the likeness of the throne was a likeness of a form of a son of form of a man from above. So it wasn't, I don't believe the Father, it was a man, and Jesus would have been the only one that I can think of that would be that way. And then the Holy One, it calls him, it says in Habakkuk 1:12, and you, not from the beginning, O Lord, my God, my Holy One. Are you not from the beginning, O Lord, my God, my Holy One? Habakkuk 1:12. And then in 4:11, thus says the Holy One and true. That's in 3:7. And then in 4:11, the one having the key of David, worthy are you, the Lord and our God, the Holy One. And that's 4:11 here. And then, oh, how long, O Master, the Holy One and true, do you not judge and avenge our blood from the ones dwelling upon the earth? That's in 6:10. So I think all of these, to me, there's a man on it. It's Jesus is the person. It's not the Father. And then the last one is in the Septuagint. It's Habakkuk 3:3, and it says, God shall come from Teman, and the Holy One from out of the mount of shady Paran. So it's a person, the Holy One is coming, God. And God takes human form. And it says that in Habakkuk. So the Holy One, worthy are you, the Lord our God, the Holy One, to receive the glory and the honor and the power, for you created all, and by your will they are and were created. And Jesus was from the beginning, and the creation had to do with Jesus and taking form and coming to earth. And so now we get our first glimpse of the heaven with this sea, the throne, and the thrones of the 24 elders, and the creatures, the cherubim, all appear in that chapter. Then in chapter 5, we'll continue in our next seminar, and it starts on what he sees next to the throne. And I hope you'll join us in chapter 5. And God bless.